Okay, folks. Get started. Unfortunately, this one. Okay. This does not broadcast in here. So I'm going to be speaking relatively loudly, but my wife says I do that all the time. Okay. Paula, you would call the roll.
Roll call. Paula Crocker here. Al Majority. Mackie Harding. Kent Harding. Cindy McLean. Pamela Mayer is excused. Norma Sokowski. John Thomas.
Present.
And Cheryl Winston. Cheryl, are you there? All right, and Scott is here, and Mary McGrattan is here, correct? And Karen Getchen. Did I miss anyone?
We are in the process of learning how to use the software for the minute. So there wasn't a lot of detail.
Sorry, but we can't hear Kent.
Oh. Thanks, John. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes for, and a second. Who raise your hand if you, Mackie, you made the motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Cindy seconded. Is there any changes that need to be made? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go by a show of hands. Raise your hand, say aye for approval. Just raise them so
Aye.
everybody can see. Nay for disapproval, and no abstention. So
Cheryl, do you approve the minutes for last month's meeting?
Cheryl, can you hear us? Scott, did you catch whether she approved or not?
I don't see any response.
Should I'll put her down as abstaining. We'll get down. The minutes have been approved as presented. Are there any comments from the citizens? There are none. Communications? Any communications, Scott? Anybody else? John, am I still coming through okay?
You're okay as long as you hold it close to your face. It's when you lean it forward that we lose you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no communications, we'll go into reports. Scott, got it? The director's report.
All right, so we've been doing our Wednesday curbside lunches. They're continuing to do pretty well. I think we're up to almost just over $2,000 in revenue so far since we started. The van grant's been moving along. We finished and signed our MOU with, I believe it's Matthews Bus Company, completed our Title VI program, and that's been submitted to the state and approved. The next step's actually the procurement process, I believe, to get the van. So I'm waiting on that. That's supposed to start, I believe, in May. I think we can start the process with that. So hopefully we'll have a new van shortly. The CARES Act, we were able to buy the ID card printer with some blank PVC ID cards, as well as ink that'll integrate with our MyRec software to print IDs that can then be used to scan in and out of the building. That used up all of our CARES Act money, so we weren't able to purchase a webcam for the main room that might pick up sound a little better. So we're kind of stuck using the microphones, which is just an alternative, because the cost of a camera that would be the proper camera for this room would be about $1,400 to $2,000. Of the MIS department looked at it. So it's quite expensive. It was actually almost the same amount as we got for the grant to get the printer. So we weren't able to get that on top of the printer. But we did receive the printer, and we just have to have MIS set it up so we can test it out. But it's exciting to have that. Classes, we've started our outdoor classes, and they've so far, except for the snow day. We were, worried about rain, but didn't even think about snow. And then we'll just make that up at the end. We've left a few weeks in between for any rain or snow that happens and forces us to cancel a class. Next week on May 4th, we're going to do kind of a soft reopening. We're going to do a Cinco de Mayo event, not on the 5th. We're going to do it on the 4th due to transportation. The van drivers are off on Wednesdays, so that way we can bring people to and from the center. We're going to offer a taco and a quesadilla, and we'll have a little, luncheon outdoors. We're thinking about some entertainment, just to kind of get people back to the building again. It'll be nice as a little soft reopening. Everybody just has to pre-register, so we know who's coming, and then make sure we buy enough food and meet all the COVID restrictions. Still waiting to hear from Public Works. The lights for this room have been ordered, and we're just waiting on a final installation date. Once we get the supplies in, Public Works is pretty much ready to go. I think there's a few things that have to be done with a contractor. So as soon as those parts come in, we're hoping to get that project going and started. That way we can open the main room indoors up again and start doing some maybe indoor classes, things like that, and progress through the opening process.
Norma?
So Norma asked how many classes. I believe, is it 2 right now? And we're working on trying to get some more people going, because we kind of just scrambled and we're getting ready for the next brochure that's coming out. So that'll hopefully have a lot more classes in it. And then if people actually get the information, which will be good too. But surprisingly, we have high registrations for the classes we just threw together, and kind of, by phone, word of mouth, Facebook, email, we're able to market that way. I believe. I got to look.
Scott, can you repeat the question?
Karen said that you don't have to wear a mask outside. I got to look. So the sports fitness guidelines haven't changed yet. There's like stipulations in it. It depends on the activity, how vigorous, the spacing. So most of the classes we should be able to accommodate no mask, because we're not playing football or anything like that where it would require us. But I don't know if it's in place till the 19th. I think it's when it's officially effective. We just haven't received the actual new guidelines themselves yet. They always announce it and then release it like the week before for you to sort through and figure it all out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're expecting a major change in some guidelines coming up. We just don't have all of that yet. We're just, whatever the governor's released in his press releases. Yeah, so there's guidance from the state. We've just been told now that the guidance is no longer applicable, but this should be used as like a recommendation. It is our decision. We're actually, our kind of main thing is now waiting for the lights to open indoor stuff up again. We want to get that light project finished up, and we were hoping for May. So I'm just going to talk to Public Works and see if they can, where they stand, because hopefully in the next, few weeks that'll get done and we can start things back up indoors.
Just to clarify for sure, the inside activities, Scott and I talked about it, are going to be suspended until that physical restructuring is done, so that you don't start something inside and then have to move outside or change the venue. So all of the activities that I think we're scheduling so far are going to be outside, right, Scott?
Yeah, for the time being. And then once we're, clear to move indoors, we'll start things back up inside. And it won't look exactly like it did before we closed down. There'll be a slow process of, it might be just exercise classes versus, exercise class in one half of the room and then like Wii bowling on the other, because of the space requirements. Like with the mask, you need a certain amount of space. And then some of the guidelines that when they did allow you not to wear a mask, it was like instead of 6 feet, you might need like 10 feet in between participants. So we kind of have to map that out, and that'll be a factor on, mask versus no mask. And it also, the guidelines depend too. They change all the time. And so 3 feet in schools, 6 feet for everybody else still. I know it makes no sense that, one organization's 3 and everybody else is 6, but. All right, I've just started reading through the mountain of guidelines that have changed this week. I've been focusing on summer mostly this, the beginning of the week, because that's, 30, 40 pages.
Excuse me, Scott. John, were you able to hear Paula?
No, I did not.
Okay, we're going to have to pass the mic around, I think, for.
And Cheryl has replied that she approved the minutes. So
Okay,
she can hear, but she can't, but it freezes on her.
okay. So can she vote through you if
Or
you're
no,
okay?
she could put it in the chat. I'll make it so we can read it going forward.
Oh, you can see that?
Yeah,
Okay,
on the right there
Yeah.
now.
I think we're good.
Yeah, she can use chat.
Are there any other questions for the director? Okay, moving on. Commissioner, nope, Karen, do you have any report for us?
No.
The municipal agent has no report for the meeting today. Okay, commissioner comments.
Yes.
Couple of things, John, I'll be with you in a minute, that I want to start with. The first is the Robert's Rules of Order. Our bylaws say we're going to be conducting minutes according to those rules, or not minutes, but the meetings. And I had sent around some information. You should have what I found was a cheat sheet, which describes the types of motions and their order of importance. And when you look at the sheet, since we are a formal meeting, in theory, we're supposed to be adhering to Robert's rules. And I don't think we're going to be doing that 100%, because we're all going to have to be learning the process. And as part of that, I was looking for a training session, and Mary McGrattan, in the email I sent out, inquired of Gail Bradbury, who's the librarian, head librarian for Ledyard, and she broadcast the request out to all of her contacts. And it turns out there's quite a lot of interest in having a training session. And I also picked up, I don't know, John, can you see okay on this? It's Robert's Rules for Dummies. The full book, which is the 11th edition, is a lot more complicated than this. And I have not even close to completing this and reading it, but very, very formal. The lady that wrote this book is the one that also provided that cheat sheet. And there is an organization that it's a certification organization, and it does provide training. And Gail located an individual, and probably sometime in June, possibly later, we're going to try to arrange a Zoom training session with this certified individual. And it will not only be for Ledyard and Ledyard commissioners, but it's probably going to be broadcast for the other associations, organizations that would be interested. So Gail is trying to set that up. Until that time, the main thing I wanted to get out was discussion has to be based on a made and seconded motion. So to date, you should have received via email the motions that I have, and they are in order that we want to cover within the time period. So I'm thinking we may not, with discussion, cover all of them, but they are presented in order of importance in the agenda. So with that, we're going to start getting a little bit more formal, and hopefully we will eventually merge into the correct format for conducting a meeting. And that concludes my remarks. Raise your hand if any of the commissioners have other remarks. John, I thought you were going to have one.
No, I don't know that I do, Kent. Remind me what you were thinking of.
Oh, no, I just thought you had said something when I started with the remark.
No, that's fine.
Very good. Okay. Don't believe we have any old business, and therefore we'll move into new business. Is there, Paula? No. That's a motion. Oh,
Yeah, it is on there.
if there was discussion about Robert's rules, then that's why that's on there, to permit discussion. Essentially, my comments were directed. That's comments. That would be the commissioner's comments. So is there a motion? Norma Sukowski? Is there a second?
Kent, what was the motion?
I move that we authorize Scott to spend $300 to purchase a feather flag for the senior center.
John, were you able to hear that?
I did indeed, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Very good. Is there a second? Mackey seconded the motion, and the motion is to purchase a flag or authorize Scott to expend up to $300 to purchase a feather flag for the center. We are now open for discussion. Aaron?
So those feather flags are those big things that are kind of ugly and, you know, just kind of wave around. Is that what it is? Okay. So
Yeah.
is it something that gets taken down every night and put up every day? Is it something that, what does it say?
The concept was one that the commission addressed 2 years ago.
Correct.
The idea was to put something out that would be attracting attention for people driving along, and it would say senior center. Now, I think we'll probably have senior center and parks and rec, and it would only, in my thinking, it would only be out when there are special events, like for Tuesday, the quote unquote Cinco de Mayo, then it would be put out in the morning and taken down that evening. Now, my understanding is from what research we had 2 years ago is that if you take it down, you're not going to be in violation of the highway sign ordinance. So it's something that we could put up and then take down. But just my personal thinking is it would be used on days in which there are events to attract attention.
Okay. So then the staff would have to walk down, park their car, put it up, take it down, that sort of thing every time.
I don't know that they would have to drive.
But even walking on that area is kind of, I think, treacherous around those corners. I don't know. I just think of safety with this. And I'm not, I don't vote, but I'm just not a fan of, I think what Scott's doing in other areas is will bring in people, but I'm not, but that's my opinion for what it's worth.
Thank you. Other comments?
Hi, this is Cheryl. Has anyone discussed this with the neighbors whose property the flag might be on?
Cheryl, my understanding is that it's on state property and that it's not an issue with the neighbors. I'm going back to what we did over 2 years ago with the original attempt to put it up. Mary McGrattan?
Going back 2 years ago, we also talked about a permanent wooden sign. That was, I think, before Parks and Rec. So a nice wooden sign would be up there permanently, and I don't know if it costs I don't know how much it would cost.
I brought this in to show you guys. So what Mary's talking about, we actually already purchased, we had some money left in the budget last year for Parks and Rec. So we haven't been able to put it up yet, but it is a process. I did have to get a zoning permit, et cetera, to be able to put the sign out there and replace the one that's there. So we do have this is the biggest sign allowable by the state. And we figured this will work a little better than that we don't have to take up and down every day.
Scott, does
John?
that new sign have a flagpole attachment possible?
We're going to use the existing pole. I think one of the poles has a flagpole on it.
Right. I wondered if we couldn't just get a flag for that pole that says Senior Center or Parks and Rec and put it up once in a while and take it down. I know it's a Dutch flag now, but we are in need of advertising.
And that would be easier because it would be on the same like plot or sign. So we wouldn't really need, additional permission from the state or permitting or any zoning
Exactly.
permissions as well.
Okay, Cheryl, John, were you able to see the sign okay?
I can see it, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, other,
Yep.
other comment, Mackie?
Yeah, it's double-sided, and we thought we'd put, I know people have noticed that we have the little wooden park and rec tree. So our idea was to take the one there and actually put it on the other side in the vestibule. So it would have the senior center wooden sign and then the old park and rec wooden sign as you walk in the main, the little hallway right there.
Cindy? Oh, hold
Yes,
up a minute.
this would be, yes, if it would be on Route 12, this would be down on Route 12. So where the round sign is currently, they'll take that out and actually move one of the posts back a few feet to accommodate that sign. Or you talk about the feather flag? Yeah, that we'd have to put somewhere out there. I'd have to look at some zoning regulations.
Okay, hold off
Yeah.
because we need to, one, get it recorded, and secondly, one person at a time. So if you'll raise your hand, I'll recognize you. So Cindy?
Okay. I was just saying that I think this is a beautiful sign all by itself. And I think it does tell everybody that that's the senior center. And I don't really think we need a feather flag with the sign. Maybe it would draw more attention for certain events, but I think it'd be hard to take it up and down, and it is another thing the staff would have to do at night, or not maybe in the dark, but maybe daytime events. I just think this is a lovely sign all by itself.
Other, Norma?
I think the sign is very nice, but I think having a feather flag for special occasions, as you drive by, you're going to get used to seeing that. But if the feather flag is put out for something special, it might jar somebody's memory or say, aha, what's going on?
Other comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Point of
Cheryl,
clarification, Kent, is it 300 or 500?
this was 300 based on the estimates that we had 2 years ago.
So I was able to get a baseline. It's probably going to be at least $225, and then could be more depending on any like embroidering, logos, anything like that you want put on. So the start, you're looking about $225 and up.
John, did you hear that?
I did, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands or information. Is Cheryl emailing?
I'm here. No, I'm on my phone. I can talk.
Okay. Let's go with a show of hands. So all those in favor, raise your hand.
I'm in favor.
Okay,
I'm in favor.
we have Norma, myself, Cheryl. Anybody else?
John Thomas.
So we have 4 ayes. Okay, those that are opposed, raise your hand and say nay if. So we have Paula, Mackie, and Cindy. So we have 3 nays. Abstentions. And Alma is abstaining. So the motion is passed 4-3 with 1 abstention. You good? Pardon me? No. Just a majority.
I think 2/3 is to like suspend rules and procedures.
Okay. If we can, move on. Hold on a minute. Yes,
Yeah, you just can't call or motion or second.
Karen asked if the chair could vote, and the answer was yes. Hey, motions? Yes, but the first motion was carried to authorize Scott to spend up to $300 for a feather flag. Norma?
I move we change the June 23rd commission meeting to June 16th.
Is there a second? Cindy seconded. Quick comment, Scott is going to be away for personal reasons in the week of the normal June meeting, and we have to post the change at least 30 days in advance, and that is why we have it on the agenda for today. Is there any discussion?
Number one, do we change the meeting every time someone's not going to be here?
No, it's up to the commission in terms, that's why it's on as a vote. So the reason it was proposed, as I mentioned, is that Scott, who's the senior center director, is unavailable that week for personal reasons.
Okay, but what I'm asking is that the precedent we're going to set, that if someone's not here, we're going to change the meeting?
That's up to the commission. I mean, by virtue of this motion, we will probably address that issue. Mackie?
Does Scott have to be here?
No, there is no requirement for
Okay.
the
So if
director.
we, I was saying, if we need a director, Monica is down as the assistant director.
Well, I mean, from the standpoint, Scott has a written report, so that would certainly substitute. So the answer to your question is no, his physical presence is not required.
Okay, so he could give any, like his director's report and his financial report to someone else to read.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none. John, Cheryl, any comment?
No comment.
Okay, we will vote
Not
on the
here.
motion. The motion was to change the June 23rd commission meeting to June 16. All those in favor, raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, say aye.
Aye.
I have three. I have Cheryl, John, the chair, Norma, and Alma for changing the meeting. Those opposed, raise your hand. I have three, which is Paula, Cindy, and Mackie. Opposing, the motion carries by 5-3. And there are no abstentions. Okay. Moving on. Let me clarify, if I may, I cannot make motions. It has to be made by somebody other than the chair. And if there are no motions, then we will move to the adjournment. So the fact that you have those distributed does not make them an official act of business for the commission. Cindy? Okay, would you read? Oh, wait a minute.
A motion to establish an option to add credit to accounts for all members.
Is there a second? Norma seconded. Again, some background. We've talked about this before. the software at the center eventually will accommodate the ability to essentially deposit funds into and create a credit balance on your membership account. And instead of paying $1 or $2 or $3 at a time, it'll just be deducted from that account. So right now, this is a formal proposal to create that ability or add that ability to the member accounts. Scott?
So I don't know if we really need to take any action on this. And actually, it's already in place and being done for some people. It's not part of the membership modular. It's actually just in the software already. So like we have some people, if they give us $10 for a van ride and don't want the change, or we don't have change, we can give them account credit that they can use at a later date. I think it would just maybe be advertising that, that is an option if need be. If someone would prefer to just put credit versus get change back.
So just to clarify, we do have the motion, and we have the ability, and this, although I take it from your comment, Scott, we could implement it right now. You already are?
It's already implemented and being used for Parks and Rec and Senior Center. I did talk to the staff. We do have a few people that actually we have given credit already for various things, whether it's a trip or, class gets canceled, they just took a credit versus a refund.
Question, Ken?
John?
Does this require the use of an ID badge?
No, this is just as long as you've taken a class or gone on a trip, you have an account in our system, and we can put a credit on your account. It's nothing that we want to make required. It's just, I think, essentially, if someone wanted to prepay or if someone wanted to buy a trip for someone, they could put credit on somebody else's account.
So could I go through the internet like I do to sign up for a class and deposit money that way?
That I think you'd have to do through us. So that's where it might get tricky, because most of the time when we get a credit, it's like we put in for, a class, and if say the class is $40, they give us 50, we put in 50 and it'll automatically generate a credit. So I don't know how we would generate just the credit itself. There's a way to do it. We would just have to figure it out.
Okay.
We wouldn't make it required. It would just be a convenience thing for somebody that instead of paying a $2 van, donation or a fee, they could just give $10 and have a few rides.
Cheryl,
This is Cheryl. I have a question. Yes, please. Scott, are there provisions if somebody passes away? I'm sure that the amount of money on there won't be really significant, but what are the provisions if someone passes away and has a credit balance?
Well, so it goes to their account. So if they had other members of the household, they theoretically would be able to use it. But I mean, once it's in, it's kind of like in lieu of a refund. So you pay, and it's essentially, if you get refunded for classes, that's how we use it currently. But that's a good point about, we don't like to, use it a whole lot because there is, financial worries with it. It kind of messes with the financials because you're paying ahead of time, so it might look like we're bringing in more money when it's not all, class fees or van fees.
Question again, by any chance?
John? Yes.
Scott, when you buy lunch, how does it get deducted? Somebody just listing your name, or how does it work?
One of the staff would go on their account, and when you buy a lunch, at the end of the day, we go in and put all the lunches in through the system, and it actually like shows up as a purchase on their.
Okay.
So if they did cash, we just, when we process the payment, we put that they paid cash.
Right. So
And that allows us the ability at the end of the month to run a report and verify how much money should be in our, cash drawer for when we do a deposit.
okay. Thanks.
John, any other comments?
No. Thank you.
Cheryl?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Norma? Wait a minute.
it almost seems that the motion is unnecessary or redundant. Perhaps the solution would be just to have Scott let people know that this is an available option.
The easiest way to handle that, I think, is to reject the motion. Or, yes. Mackie, no, Cindy, you made the motion. Would you care to withdraw it? For having the option, yes. Okay, understand. And I think, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, I think if the individual making the motion withdraws, it doesn't require withdrawal from the second.
That is correct. Oh, yes, the seconder says withdraws too.
Okay. Norma agreed to withdraw, so the motion is withdrawn from the floor. Any other motions to come forward? Okay, Norma.
I would like to put motion number 4 on the floor. Only my purpose would be to have people discuss it. Yeah.
Motion to suspend the rules to discuss motion or item number 4. Second,
John Thomas.
very good. We have a suspension of the rules to discuss the fee schedule for transportation. Raise your hand, please, or John or Cheryl, just call in.
This is Cheryl. I don't think it's right for us to be charging or having a fee schedule for people who are the most vulnerable in our community. I think if people had an option of using a different mode of transportation, they would. If they had family members who could drive them around, they would. So I don't believe that we should be setting a schedule for minimum suggested donations for transportation. I think it's an implied fee, and I disagree with that.
Let me clarify. There is no fee for picking up and essentially round trip to the center for center activities or for shopping or medical appointments and so forth. The fees would be related to activities or events that the center is sponsoring that are held away from the center. Scott, you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to clarify, so we have the vans are purchased under what's called a 5310 grant. It's a federal grant. And there's a lot of stipulations. So when we bring somebody to go shopping or to go to a medical appointment, we do not turn them away if they don't want to. That ride is completely free. We have a suggested $1 donation in Ledger to a suggested $2 donation out of Ledger. The reason why we keep 2 vans, currently both of our vans are out of the grant period. When they're out of the grant period, we don't have to follow the grant stipulations. On the grant stipulation for the new van, we cannot charge a fee to use that transportation, for that van. I believe we're talking about for trips and things like that, which we would typically use the old van because we can actually charge a fee with the trips. But like for shopping, all that stuff, we cannot charge a fee. It's a suggested donation, $1 in town, $2 out of town. We don't turn anybody away if they are unable to pay the $1 or the $2. We still pick them up regardless.
Cheryl, did that address your concern?
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
Then the other thing is I did look too, and it looks like we did touch on number 4 and number 5 in February of 2020. And I mean, I would suggest that actually the motions, the way they were put then, I like, because it gives us a little bit of room to operate. So we had a motion to increase for the trips, increase van fees for any trip over 25 miles at the discretion of the senior center director. And that was made on February 26th of 2020. And then also the next one was on there. I think you actually made the motion, Kent, to charge non-residents an additional $5 for trips under 50, an additional $10 for trips over 50.
You know if that was approved, Scott?
Yep, they were both approved. I was able to find that. Actually, just found it right before the meeting because I remember we had talked about it.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's. I think we have to now decide if you want to change that. Just so you know, that's the baseline we're working off of. That's what was last approved.
I think, John, you had raised the issue of the transportation costs. And I think you were the source of that motion.
I don't know if I was the source of the motion. I do remember it. And I would say that if we have it in place, that we should adhere to what we have in place. Essentially, it gives the director the responsibility to set the fee. What he thinks is reasonable or she thinks is reasonable would be fine by me. But it brings up another point that I was wondering about. Do we have binders containing our policies, both in a public area such as the entryway and in the office, so that anyone can look up our policies?
I actually have the policies right here. We should probably actually work on updating them. But I think we can put them up on the Park and Rec website under department info, because I know we have the Park and Rec policies up there.
I
I'm
think
not sure if it's on the town.
Yeah, that's good, but I kind of would like to see a binder so that any person walking in the entryway would know that they can look up a policy.
Yeah, I mean, if they come into the office, we have them, you know, on hand in the office. Actually, probably in a binder on the bookshelf.
Right.
John, I think more than the policies, what you're talking about is the kind of changes that are under discussion now regarding the transportation costs and other things. So we might look at, I'm thinking, putting together a couple of people on the commission to come up with a format for that. Does that sound something that would address what your issue?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Other comments? We do have a motion on the floor. We need to either have it withdrawn or we will vote on it.
Okay, Kent, if we're still voting on this one, then could we introduce the phraseology for special events sponsored by the senior center so that it becomes clear that we are not talking about the routine operation of transportation support?
So you're requesting that motion number 4 be amended to include
Explicitly identify that it's a special events fee schedule.
And in light of the discussion and so forth, I would entertain a motion to table this until the next meeting, at which point we can refine it. Somebody so moved. Mackey moved to table the motion. Second. Norma seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Norma, is your hand up?
I'm sorry. And mine's up too. Cheryl's up too.
Mine up.
Okay. The motion is tabled, passed unanimously. Okay. Other motions? Okay, seeing none. Is there any motion from the floor? Okay, we can.
Number
Well,
5.
somebody has to make the motion.
So then if it's on the agenda, if we don't make a motion, we don't discuss it? I'm just asking.
Yes,
I'm very
yes.
confused.
No, the process requires, what's on the agenda is a description of a requested motion, but that has to be made and seconded to bring it before the commission. So the fact that it's on there, that's something that's proposed, and as I mentioned earlier, we may not get to all of the agenda items. Cindy?
I'll make the motion, Ken. Number 5, motion to establish a minimum surcharge to non-residents for all center provided and sponsored activities.
Is there a second? Almost seconded. Just a comment, I think, Scott, that was addressed in because you had mentioned 4 and 5 were combined.
So I would recommend that we do make a motion maybe for establishing it for activities, because it looks like the motion that was made was for trips advertised. So it would be nice to follow the same format. So what we actually currently do already for the senior center, Parks and Rec, and then we motion to add it on for the trips, is we do $5 for any trip, program, or activity under $50, and an additional $10 for any trip, or program over $50. Our motion in February just has motion to change non-residents or charge non-residents an additional $5 for trips under 50, and then an additional 10 for trips over 50. This will be for trips advertised after February 26th. I think we should maybe make a motion for activities. It is already in place. But if you want to formally make a motion, this is something that the staff's already implemented as far as charging the non-resident versus resident fee.
Okay, if we can, we're coming up close to the ending time. I would entertain a motion to table this also for the next meeting. Who said that? Mackie, so moved. Is there a second? Yeah, 5 specifically, but yeah, they're integrated. So is there a second to Norma? Norma seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye if you're on Zoom.
Aye.
Aye.
We have a motion to table that is passed unanimously. Okay, staying in new business, could I have 2 volunteers that would work with Scott to update these 2 motions that are mentioned on the agenda, 4 and 5, to come forward to the next commission meeting with the appropriate wording?
I'll volunteer. John Thomas.
John volunteered. Any others? Wait a minute, Norma's going to be talking.
A clarification. You said it was already something from a previous date. Could we have that available for the next meeting or for this subcommittee? Because I'm a little unclear what we're comparing over here.
Yes, it would be. My thinking is, rather than take up time trying to resolve the wording, that this group, John and another volunteer and Scott, would meet and come up with the wording that reflects both what we've done in the past as well as what we're trying to do here. So is there another volunteer here? Mackey,
I'd recommend just doing it in the meeting, because if we meet on this, we technically would have to call a special meeting just for those 3 individuals and create a subcommittee. It's
No, you
almost,
don't.
it's more work because it's on the agenda. So technically it's official commission business.
I understand what you're saying, but both of these motions are tabled, and we can set up a smaller committee. It doesn't constitute a meeting to examine that, and then when we bring it off the table, it would be amended to reflect the wording that the 3 of you come up with.
Yeah, so if a committee meets though, this would be a new committee that we then have to set up in the software as a committee, and we would have to call and declare a meeting with the clerk for subcommittees as well.
We've never done that in the past, and I'm not aware, Mary's not here, so we will have a John Mackey and I can meet unofficially, and then we can talk with you, Scott, to find out what the technical requirements are. But
3 or 4 of you guys.
there would be 3 of us.
Okay, I was gonna say do 3, because if you do 4, it's technically a quorum. So it'd be-
I'm definitely staying below. A quorum is 5. So
or
we're
majority
definitely
or-
below that. So, okay, seeing no other new business, is there a motion to adjourn? Alma move to adjourn. A second.
Cheryl, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. No abstentions. We are adjourned. And thank you all.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Is this still on, Scott?
It should be, I can tell you.